We'll do this. Well, hello, Gerard. How are you? Is it
Uncle.
Gerard or Jared?
It's I prefer Gerard,
Yeah,
hard R. Yep,
yeah. No, that's fine. I'll call you Jared from now on then. Um,
all good.
no, I won't. Don't. I'm just, yeah, sorry. I was just being an ass. That is one of my the things that I do is just act like an ass. But I won't with you. So, welcome to the Fireside Chat. And what are you up to?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, Steve. Very much so
It's a
honored to
pleasure.
yeah spend the time to talk to you. Yeah, not much right now. Just trying to get my affairs in order. Obviously, I was recently laid off from Atlassian.
So tell us a
That's gonna
little
be.
bit about that. What you were at Atlassian for how long?
I was at Atlassian for a little over 3 years. I was working on accessibility for the design system.
And the ostensible reason for your redundancy is due to being replaced with AI, is that, or is just generally
I
they wanted to reduce the costs?
I have my own personal explanations, but I think really what it came down to was just that was a line item. And
Yeah, it's unfortunate. How many people work at Atlassian?
oh, I think it was like 12,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a big company. It's an Australian company originally. I don't
it
know if
is.
it
It
still
is.
is, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that knows, that knows bug tracking or will know Jira and
Yep.
probably dislike Jira. I mean, I don't dislike it. I just think it's overly complicated. But I mean, most software programs are, especially or cloud programs or whatever, especially if they've been built up over time, because there's a lot of technical debt that gets woven into the process, and it negatively affects the user journeys, user interface. I mean, it's just yeah.
Yeah.
But I
You'll
mean,
be
I'm only
surprised. A lot of Excel use at
really
Atlassian. Oh yeah, yeah. Our a couple of teams that I work closely with still used Excel to manage certain things.
so.
So yeah.
So they don't eat their own dog food then.
The teams that I worked closely with didn't so much. I'm sure the Jira team probably, used it a lot more. Um, it's a lot of things to a lot of people. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah, definitely is that. Mostly frustration, but anyway.
yeah.
So what were you doing? What was your day to day when you were at Atlassian?
My day to day at Atlassian was just trying to encourage people to be as accessible as possible. When I first started, I was originally hired as an engineering manager, had a very small team. Um, and some of them did not have as much accessibility experience as I had wanted. But we all start from somewhere, so I had to bring them up, which was a lot of fun. We did a lot of great work, and then probably like about 3 to 4 months into my time being there, they had this reorg, and unfortunately, the position that I was at as an engineering manager was basically flattened. We called it the flattening. And they gave me an option of I could stay there until December of that year, and then at which point, I would say bye, or I could drop down to IC level as a senior engineer. And I took the senior engineer route because I felt it would give me the ability to keep doing, the work that I wanted to do there. Even though I chose to move away from IC work like 8 years ago, was cosplaying as an engineer, but really helping a lot of other people do whatever they needed to do to be as accessible as possible.
And who were you working with? There were a number of other people that I'm aware of that were working at Atlassian, Atlassian. See, I always get mixed up with the name. Uh, Gerard. So who? Some other names that you can name that were there?
Yeah, so at the time that I was hired and up until, about a year ago, Rob Sinclair was the head of accessibility. It was my first time working with him. Great guy. Absolutely loved working with him and under him. But I was in a completely different org. and quite a few levels down. But obviously, we're working for the same cause. So my
Yeah.
team and his team, which was the central accessibility team, had to work together. So yeah, a lot of great people
So is
coming in
he
and out.
still there or is he gone?
No, he left about a year ago.
Right. And you worked with someone who I used to work with. What was
Oh,
it? No,
Andy.
Andy
I think you.
Lahart.
Yeah, yeah. Andy Lahart, great guy. He's
Yeah.
still there, still doing a good job. So yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, no, no. I'm trying to remember. I think that at TPG, or TPG, I just call it TPG, where I used to work and he used to work. Um, he was he was a manager. He wasn't a yeah. He was a manager within the access or the TPGI's engineering team or whatever, but he didn't actually have do a lot of hands-on accessibility as far as I can remember. I remember, yeah, like I don't think that his job required him, even though he had a reasonable level of accessibility understanding, I don't think his job required him to do that on a day-to-day. Oh
Yeah.
well, I'm glad at least that he is still working because I know that he left to go to TPG to go to a startup, but that didn't last long. And the next thing he popped up at Atlassian, got in contact with me because he thought they might have some work, but nothing's ever come of it. So that's okay.
Sounds
Um,
about right. Yeah.
yeah,
Do you
my
know? Do you know Matthew Brennan?
no.
Matthew Brennan, great guy, was at Meta working with Matt King.
Oh,
He's
McGing,
still there.
who recently he got the push as well from Meta recently
Yep.
during the big
Uh,
layoff.
yeah, yeah. So Matt's a great guy. He's still there, doing the good work. So yeah, shout out to
I'll have
both of
to
those
look
guys.
him up. Matthew Brennan, I mean, there are so many people involved in accessibility or related work these days. It's difficult to
Yep.
keep up, which is great. I mean, one of the things that was talking to Mike Smith about was that, well, my perception was when I started in accessibility many years ago, that it was a small pool um, of active participants, but now really through, I mean, I'm just looking at through the sphere of the W3C working groups, there seems to be a lot more positive, a lot more technical people involved in accessibility, which is what we need because a lot of it
Yep.
is technical. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no other aspects to it, but what a lot of what it's about is from the technical aspect is getting stuff implemented in browsers, implemented in software in general, but a lot of web stuff. And having those people that feel comfortable and knowledgeable talking about that stuff, helps.
Oh yeah, definitely. The more the merrier. I wish sometimes it wasn't so focused on commercial contributions,
Commercial.
if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
always makes things a little difficult. But happy to see the help, anyways.
Talking commercial, who was I talking to? I was talking to Hedy. Did you meet Hedy DeVries when you went to CSUN this year?
I did not go to CSUN, but I met him last year at
Ah,
A11YTO. So yeah,
I thought you
it was a
went.
quick
He
meeting.
was at Accessory Tea last year.
Last year, yep.
Did I was there. I can't remember seeing Hedy.
Last year, I don't think you were there last year. I would have had pictures of you.
Was it? What was last? Oh fuck! I mean, I thought I did. I went with what? Which
Oh,
year are you talking about? 24 or 25?
you know what? I don't even remember now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because
Maybe it was 2 years ago.
I was definitely there in last year because it was the first year that it was at the new venue,
Okay,
and Eric Bailey spoke, and that was really nice mug.
it's my favorite.
The funny thing is that the so few of these products that of the hundreds of designs that I have, that are available gets actually bought by people is really good to see.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
ah, and that's cool as well. Well, I've got my version of it. Well,
yeah.
yeah,
I
and
saw it. I saw it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Piggy
I
trumps the code if you want your own people.
yeah.
Highly recommend it. So
Oh
I would use
yes,
these. Yeah, I would use these whenever I would do presentations at work. I would use these shirts as just kind of subversive messaging. So it became a thing where people would sometimes would join just to see what shirt I was wearing, just to try to catch the
excellent.
message. Yeah.
Well, as you know, which is probably the prime reason, one of the prime reasons you came on was you get as a interviewee, you get a your choice of item from the HTML store. So you can choose
Nice.
whatever you want. Tell me, and then I'll order it through Printful because that way I don't have to pay Etsy money.
Yeah.
I
Awesome. Thank
actually,
you.
I actually did. I sold something the other day to a person called Gretchen Morn. Do you know her?
Hmm. No.
No, I mean I only know her through. But anyway, I think she's blind. But anyway, she saw the Piggy Trump code and wanted to use it, but she couldn't find where to put the code in. And
Classic.
so yeah, typical UI. And then so I ended up she bought something. I ended up refunding it, but it ended up costing me like £10 extra.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
So so
Accessibility. It makes a difference.
yeah. So just to point out that I'm not making money out of these things. It's a labor of love as much of what I've done and what I'm sure what you've done over. I mean, of course, we all do it to get a pay packet because we've got to live. We've got
Yep.
bills to pay, and also in the States especially that you it's tied to healthcare. Employment is tied to healthcare. I
Yep.
have never had that particular chain around my neck. So tell me a bit about, like, I don't know, I know you live in the States, but where in the States do you live?
So I actually live in Northern California, not too far away from Sacramento, which is the state capital.
Oh,
About
no.
2 hours north of San Francisco.
I never knew Sacramento. I thought always thought Los Angeles was the state capital. See, so ignorant that I
Yeah, well,
am.
if you ask me, it might be. I'm originally from LA, so yeah.
Right. And how is it a nice city? Is it, you live in the suburbs?
I live in the suburbs, so I lived in Oakland for about 12 years, which was great. Downtown, right in the middle of everything, fantastic. But me and my wife decided it was time to grow up, wanted to buy a house, and that's impossible to do in the Bay Area. So we moved up a little bit north to a small little town, which is perfect for us because nobody knows us.
Oh, yeah. Well,
We
it's
just stay
always,
at home all day. We stay
yeah.
quiet. And yeah, it's great.
And so, what is happening as far as work? Are you looking? Well, obviously, you're looking. I mean, is there anything out there at the moment?
Oh, no, it's tough times for sure, for a lot of different reasons. But I got, the thing is that the community has been so great to me. I'd have to say this is the second time I've had to deal with the layoff, and everyone's just been absolutely great, and sending me resources. I've had just random people, send me meeting invites just to talk to me to find out like, hey, how can we help?
Oh,
So.
well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's been really great. I'm very 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 grateful for everyone's support. But yeah, I'm also, I'm not sure if I want to stay in tech anymore. I'm not sure if I want to keep doing accessibility. I'm kind of beat up over it. But I can't deny the fact that I still feel like I have a lot to give. You're talking about it being a labor of love, and I think it has to be if you're going to do it for this long and at this
Yeah.
level. It has to be something that you really genuinely believe in. And
And you
I could
also have to
have,
be a masochist.
yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah, definitely. It's not easy work. I always tell people, don't let your kids grow up to work in accessibility.
Yeah, yeah. I oh well, I mean, yeah, I've done okay with it, but I've led a pretty charmed existence because as you know, I used to work. Well, you probably know I used to work for Vision Australia. I worked there for 5 years, then I worked for TBG for 17 and a half years, and then at the grand age of 60, I walked into another position as director at Tetralogical. So I've been very lucky, and I have never been laid off. So. I'm pleased, but I know a lot of my friends and that have within the industry. So talking,
Yeah, I mean, not to sound like a victim, it's been a great time. I've met a lot of great people. I've been able to work with a lot of great people, and we've been able to do a lot of great things. So, I'm still
yeah,
grateful
but
for the time,
still,
even
I
if it was
mean,
difficult.
if you lose your job which is your livelihood, things are not great. So you are a victim
Yeah,
of something. You're not, it's a first world problem, not a third
yeah.
world. Well, shouldn't say third world, but it's just. One of my favorite songs at the moment is a song by Ian Brown, who was from the Stone Roses, still makes music, and it's called First World Problems. So it's just been going around in my head.
Yep.
So from your setup here, it looks like you're a pretty professional sort of audio person.
You know what? I've needed this. So first of all, a lot of this stuff I borrow from my wife, who's a voiceover artist and a
Oh,
vocalist.
really?
She sings. But also, I have courses that I've published on the Pluralsight learning platform.
Yes, yes.
And I wanted them to be as professional as possible because I wanted people to take accessibility seriously. So, as
Yeah,
long as they
yeah.
can see and hear as clearly as possible, that was really.
Tell me, so your wife's what you said is a voiceover artist. So is she uh, working currently, or does she do like short-term work, or is it a permanent position or whatever?
No, she's self-employed. She has her own business.
Oh, excellent.
And yeah, she does voiceovers for just about anything that you'll pay her for. She really excels at cartoon voices and
Right.
characters. She has a couple of toys out there that she's voiced.
Wow.
So yeah, she has her studio right here. We've worked in the same house for the last 8 years together,
How long
which
you
has
been
been really
married?
nice. I think this year will be 16 or 17 years, but we've been
Wow.
together for like 20 something. I lost count. Feels like a day.
Long, long time, and you're
Yeah.
still very much in love by the look of it, which is
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Oh, you've
No
met her, right?
kids. I don't know if I've met, maybe very briefly, a
Yeah.
long time
I used to
ago.
take her. Yeah, I used to take her with me everywhere to all the conferences I was at. So a lot of times people won't recognize me if she's not next to me. So
Well, maybe
yeah,
they recognize if you don't want to talk to you because who wants to talk to Gerard when he was the wife hanging around? I think I
that's right.
did briefly meet her, but sorry,
Yeah.
I
It's
was
okay.
just joking.
No, it's true. You don't know how many Photoshops pictures I've been Photoshopped out of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I haven't photoshopped you out of any. And
No, no.
talking about pictures, it's good time as any to crack open the Rogues Gallery and we can have a bit of a chat
All
about
right.
these individuals. Now, this
Yeah,
is
this part I'm a little nervous about this part because I don't get out of the house much, so that means I don't meet a lot of people.
oh
So
well, you
hopefully no
should.
one's offended.
What I tried to do, Gerard, is choose people that you may know or may
Okay.
not know. And look, well, you got to know yourself, my friend. So,
Yeah.
who's top left here? Don't say you don't know who it is because I talk about him and he's one of my closest friends. He's also a very talented accessibility engineer.
Yeah, so I've never met him in person, but I do know you talk about him a lot. I want to say, is this Swallow?
Yes, this is the swallow.
David Swallow. Yeah, David
Yes,
Swallow. Okay.
and this is a picture of him. We're sitting in a cafe in Kingston. It was me and my daughter was there, and she was giving Dave a hard time because he was he was drinking an effeminate drink, as she called it, which was
Okay.
a chai latte. But
Okay.
also I just like because if you can see the shape of it's one of those glass cups that's shaped like a funnel, and it just really
Yeah.
annoys the hell out of me. Because it's got this really small little handle on it, so you're likely to drop it. But anyway, Dave came down and I think he was presenting at Goldsmith University or something. He
Oh
got
wow.
invited to talk, and and then he came down and spent the night at my place. But also he's a park runner. I don't know if you have it in the States, you probably do. But there's this thing called park runs where people gather and they all run together. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
We call them riots here.
yeah, I bet you do. Um, but the park run is something that was started. The original park run was at a park in which is called what the fuck is it called? See, that's what my memory goes. Um, well, it's a park just down the road that's very famous park. It's just gone out of my head. But anyway, he went to do the run on the Saturday morning, and so I've got nice pictures of him in my house looking with his with his nipples taped up, as you do when
Okay.
you go for a long distance running. But yeah, so that's Dave Swallow, and I was going to talk to Dave Swallow. He was actually going to appear on the Fireside last Friday, but he had to go and see his dad, so we're doing it. I'm
Mm.
I'm actually going up to York for because of uh, who I work for, Technological. Because we're a remote company, we have a face-to-face on a yearly basis, sometimes twice a year. But we're having it
Nice.
in York this in next month, and so I'll see Dave, who lives in York. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so that's the swallow. Do you know who that person is? The next person? I don't know the guy's name. He's a
I don't know this
barman at
guy's name.
Seasun. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. He's in the corner. It's me and you sitting, and then this guy is keeping us supplied. So
Yes. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I've just like once, well, every year that I'm there in the Marriott, there he is. It's the same, and
Yep.
there's about three or four of them. But funnily enough, there was another guy, a younger guy, who sold me a really nice tequila. Somebody else bought it for me because it was like $15 or something. It was, but it
Yeah.
was the nicest tequila I ever had. But that barman, I said, like when I was there last, which was last year, no, sorry, 25, not 26. Um, I said to him, "Where's the barman?" And apparently the guy died.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he was only a young guy. He was like, probably in his 30s. Had a real
Yeah.
chiseled sort of chin. Was,
Yeah.
handsome looking young barman. And
Wow.
yeah, I think he overdosed or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's what it's interesting to have a snapshot of these people that for what the one week every year or so to see them because they don't seem to
Yep.
change.
No.
Uh, do you know who the next person is?
Ooh, I am so sorry to say I do not recognize this person.
That's okay. That's absolutely fine. I mean, it's a competition, as you know, and you're losing badly so far.
Yeah, I
Um,
knew I
um,
would.
no, there's no competition. That is a person named Wendy Reed, who is Canadian, um, is involved at W3C. She used to be on the technical architecture group, and she was also previously, I think she works at eBay now as an accessibility
Oh
person.
wow. Yep.
But she used to run well, she used to be a senior person at Racket and Kobo, and so yeah. So you used to do accessory related stuff for all of the apps and e-readers and stuff like that. So
Nice. All right, Wendy.
yeah, she's an interesting person with who I've actually met, and she's coming on the Fireside in the next couple of weeks or next
Nice.
month. So yeah, so that's Wendy Reed. I look forward to speaking to her. So there's obviously there's one dodgy, or there's two dodgy folk. You must know who this person is because you're standing next to him.
I am so
Don't.
embarrassed to say, I
He
do
works
not
at
know who this
Apple.
person is.
He's
Okay.
one of the few people that ever actually is allowed to
Oh,
speak. His name's
is this
James
Craig? Yes, yes, Craig.
Craig.
Yeah, that was the only time I met him. And I wanted to talk to him more, but then someone came and pulled me away, and I never found him after that. So I hope to run
Well,
into him again.
yeah, well, I mean, he seems to be a regular visitor to CISO, and he's also heavily involved in the ARIA specification and the ARIA
Yeah,
working group at the W3C. It's very technical. He's been around for
yeah,
many a year, and
yeah,
he's very senior, and he knows his shit.
yeah, yeah. You introduced me to him, and I was really happy to meet him. But like I said, someone pulled me away, and I never got to
Yeah,
talk to him
it's
again. So
another one of the I see like I keep seem to say I've known this person for so long, and it's just because I'm old. That's why, because
yeah,
I've just known people. I mean, how long have you and I known each other?
I want to say maybe 15 years.
15 years. We met. We
Yeah.
did I meet you? Because I was thinking about it. Because I would Wells Fargo, who you used to work with many a year ago, was you did work at Wells Fargo, didn't you?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, was customer of TPG for quite a few years. And I actually went to San Francisco and conducted some training. And this was like at least, it was a long, long time ago. Were you there?
I don't think I got to see that training.
Well,
No.
you didn't miss much. I just remember because it was, is there what's the area of San Francisco? It's right downtown. It's like Embarcado or something.
Yeah, that's a financial district. Yep.
Yes, I was staying in a really nice hotel there, but I remember that I did the training on the first day. I came back. I felt absolutely jet lagged, fell asleep, woke up about 12 o'clock at night. The only place I could find the food was open within, because I didn't want, like, I felt a bit uncomfortable sort of walking around at 12 o'clock at night down in the financial district. And the only place I could find open was Subway, which,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So that
say no
that
more
area
about
shuts
that.
down like at about 5:30, 6.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was thinking, yeah, that was the sort of experience I had of San Francisco at the time. I did actually go to San Francisco for a TPAC as well with Ian Pouncey and various other people. And I did have a nicer time walking around during the day, went along the pier and all those sort of things. So
Yeah.
I quite liked it there, but
Yeah.
always amazed at the amount of homeless people that are hanging about.
Yeah, it was really just you have these homeless people that are just laying on the sidewalk, and then you have
Yep,
these really highly paid, people just kind of stepping over them. It was a really weird place to be. I started working there around the time of the Occupy Wall Street movement.
yep,
Yeah, so yeah, that place is if you want to see like just complete opposites, that's a place definitely you can
yeah,
see that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not dissimilar to some place like Mumbai or New Delhi. You've got people living on the street
Yeah.
there. That similar sort of scene. Um,
Yep.
so Wells Fargo, how long did you work there for?
I was there for 8 years. I started off on the engineering side, working on a front end library. This is before it was called a design system,
Right.
and was doing my best to get that to be as accessible as possible. And then there was the one accessibility person on the design side. You probably remember her, Claudia Case.
I, funnily
Yeah.
enough, I was looking for a picture of Claudia Case um, to put on the Rogues Gallery, but I couldn't find one. But I do,
Oh, I'll have to see if I have one.
yeah, I do remember her. I mean, from what I could find out, she retired about 2010 or something. So she
Yeah.
had been, yeah, but I do remember Claudia. So it was then. That was. So it must have been the very early days of TPG of my time at TPG that I was working with Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
Yeah, so
where,
she retired and I took her spot. So I made
ah,
a very yeah, I made a very big shift to move from the design, I'm sorry, from the engineering side to the design side. It was a very big paradigm shift, but was awesome because I got to sit around designers and learn the design aspect of things and help them understand how stuff works in the browser, and got to build a really cool team. Started off with just me by myself, and by the time I left, I think there was like 12 people. We were doing some really cool things. I mean, we were doing annotations before they were a thing.
right,
Not really the same the way people do them now, but we were embedded in design projects from the very beginning. So we got to, influence the business requirements. We got to work with the designers to make sure, they were building things properly. And then because of my relationships on the engineering side, was able to carry it through to engineers and then all the way to QA. So we had a really, really, really strong program, really great bench of people working there. Um, I hired Shell, if you remember Shell Little.
Shell Little. Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Which was a funny
Canadian,
story. She's not Canadian. No,
isn't
she's she
she?
might be. No, she's from Michigan.
Ah, I always thought she was always because I thought she was Canadian because I always see her at Accessibility TO.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
are
Hopefully,
you planning
hopefully,
on going to
hopefully
Accessibility TO this year?
I am. I'm going to submit, so hopefully I get accepted. And I'm trying to get Shell out there as well too. So hopefully she'll make an appearance.
Oh, excellent. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to try very hard to make it this year as well. As I said, there might be a fireside related event um,
Nice.
if we can get it together. But I'll go anyway. I would, yeah. I mean, I because I didn't go to CSUN, I thought, well, at least just to get out of the fucking house. I mean, I'm just stuck here most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that'd be great. It'd be great to see you both.
Yep.
And if you bring your wife, I can meet your wife again as well. I do remember. I think that I encountered you and your wife. What's your wife's name? Sorry.
Her name is Crystal.
Crystal, that's right.
Yeah.
I encountered you and Crystal in a elevator
Sounds
briefly.
about right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where and you would say nice things about me, which you always seem to, which I appreciate very much.
You're my
I
favorite.
I don't deserve, but I still appreciate. Well, yeah, well, great. If I look forward to if you and Cheryl and Crystal are going to be there. I remember last you were there, so this was CSUN 2024, and there's a guy called Steve something that I was sitting at the bar with, and I think you might have known him before. But anyway, that I'm hopeless with names, and I wanted to tag I had a picture of him and his girlfriend, I think it was, and she was a very short woman. I wanted to tag him, but I couldn't remember his
Mm.
girlfriend's name, so I just ended up not because I felt embarrassed, I got hopeless with name because I got introduced to her about 5 times, and I just
Oh, yeah.
yeah, just out the window.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad, Steve.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just. But I remember that there was somebody who I used to work with at Vision Australia, who knew I knew I knew him quite well. And I remember because he had some sort of cancer of the tongue or something. But every time I met him, I could never remember his name. And it was just so embarrassing. I mean, it's just it seems that like oh, Bushy
Well, to be
Park.
fair,
That's
yeah,
what I
to
was
be
talking
fair,
about
Steve,
earlier. Yeah.
if no one has ever been to a conference with Steve, it's just a constant stream of people lined up to talk to you. So you meet a lot of people, and those people usually bring you drinks as well.
Yes. Yes.
So it's
And
okay if you don't remember people's names.
yeah,
Well,
but
it's
I mean,
not okay, but it's
yeah.
understandable.
I wish that it's just a yeah, it's just something to do. It's not so much I don't remember. Like as I said, now I remember that the park where the park running was is a place called Bushy Park.
Oh, okay.
So it's,
How could you
I
forget a
mean,
name like that?
yeah, come and it's a huge park as well. It's got deer running in it as well.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
very lucky where I live because we've got these huge parks that have herds of deer running through them. Not just Bushy,
You
but also Richmond Park.
you go
Anyway,
running a lot, Steve?
me,
Yeah.
no, I either walk or crawl. No, I do go walking a fair amount because where I live is in Kingston is very close to the shops, so I don't really need to use my car. And
Oh, okay.
also yeah, I mean when I do the big shopping, we go in the car because I can't be
Sure.
hauling that stuff back. But anyway, uh, bottom left, who we got? You must know this guy.
This is Jared. Yes, of course,
Yeah.
Jared. Really, really nice guy. If you haven't had a chance to meet him, he's a really, really nice guy.
Oh no, I met him. That's why I took that picture.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
meant if anyone else hasn't met him, he's a nice guy. Of course,
Ah,
you've met him. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Is he's still a web aim though, isn't he?
Yep. Yeah. I just put out the Web A Million report. What was that last week? There's
Yes.
also
What
Rob Carr,
what
his buddy.
what were your thoughts on that?
So two things. One, obviously, it was very sad to see that there was a 10% increase in errors detected on homepages, which is really sad that it's 2026 and we're getting worse, you know.
Yeah.
And then
Was
the second
there?
thing,
Sorry, I
I'm
was
sorry, go
just
ahead.
going to ask about were the errors in particular, you know, for particular things, or was it just general errors across the whole spectrum?
The thing that always sticks out to me is they've been putting out those reports for a number of years. And every year it's the same top five issues every year. And they're the most basic things. There's color contrast. And then the rest of them basically have to do with labeling things.
Yeah.
It's been the same for the last like 8, 9 years. And that since the report has been made, obviously it's been longer than that, but there is quantifiable proof of the top five things. And again, it's really two categories. Um, I just, they're so easy to fix them and we keep having problems with them. And it's getting worse. How?
So we should say, or I should say at this point that it's the it only lists automated errors, doesn't it? Like
Yep, that's true.
errors that can be checked automatically. So
Correct.
there's a whole but
And then they're only home pages, so you have to assume that, it's really bad marketing,
yeah,
departments that are putting that stuff together. But still,
and
it
you
still
can
means
assume
something.
that it gets worse from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Jared Smith, and yeah, I mean, again, I've known Jared for a long time, um,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Do you know who that next person is?
That's Leone.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
that's
of
one of
course.
my co-directors, co-conspirators at Tetralogical. And that was her. I cut her husband out, damn, but he's a really nice guy. That's why I cut him out. I don't want nice people. I just want,
See, husbands get photoshopped out of pictures. I told you.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if you can say, well, actually, she is thinner than that because the way I do this, it just, I sort of like squash people up together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes, Leonie's very active. She's been involved. Well, as you probably know, she's the chair of the board of directors at W3C. So she's very much involved in and she's also chair of the Web Apps Working Group, which covers all of much of the web platform stuff that goes on. Um,
Absolute boss.
yeah, she's cluey and knows her stuff. Um, so that's Leonie. And do you know who the next person is?
Yes, that's Paul Adams.
Paul J. Yeah,
Yeah.
do, Paul's. Do you like Paul?
I don't have any problems with him. I've he's been really nice to me. I know he rubs people the wrong way sometimes.
What? Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I like him. I mean, the guy's a bit of a stoner, but so am I. So, you know, what can you say? But I always enjoy seeing him. And yes, he can be a bit over the top sometimes with certain things. But who isn't these days, hey?
yeah, I put my foot in my mouth quite a few times. I'm not saying that he has, but people seem to think, that, he's said things to, which is fine either way. But
Yeah,
his contributions to mobile accessibility have been, absolutely amazing. There's a lot of stuff
awesome.
that, we owe to Paul Adams. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's always been good to me. I enjoy seeing him.
Yeah, I always
So yeah.
enjoy seeing him as well. He's got a lovely young family. He seems to like big cars, though, big
Uh,
trucks. He's always going on
I
about
think
them.
he's in Texas. Yeah, he's in Austin, I believe. So
Yes.
Texas is everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah. Well, he's got more than one. Like, I think he
Yeah.
drives EVs, but he drives these
Yeah.
big, you know. I'm sure he's the sort of person that would have got a Tesla Cybertruck if they weren't so uncool. Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah, fuck Elon. That's all I have to say.
yeah, yeah.
And you know
He's
me, I don't curse very often, but that
no,
one's one I
no.
do.
I'm very surprised. But yeah, if you're going to save the F bomb for someone, you can always say it for him. And
Yeah.
ah, uh, lastly but not leastly, there's two people here. You've got a bit of a. Do you know who the person in the foreground is?
This is probably one of the sweetest people I've ever met, Glenda,
Glenda the
the
Good
Good
Witch.
Witch. Yeah.
Yes. I'm actually interviewing her in the coming weeks, so
Nice.
that'd be good. I mean, it's funny because she works in DQ, which I have always have a derisive comment about, but I love the people.
Yep.
I'm not really. I mean, it's there. There was a rivalry between obviously
Sure.
TPGI and DQ, but and Level Access too. But I mean, I had the pleasure of working for an American company that didn't act like an American company, and that was TPG because that was
Yeah.
Mike was and not just Mike, but Debs and Charlie. They were just great people to work for,
Yep.
and they always looked after all of us. And I'll say it again, I've said it before, but I wouldn't be where I am today without the support of Mike and Debs and Charlie, and they really
Same.
looked after me. Uh,
Same.
well, yeah, I think, I mean, that's, I'm not going to go back in, I'm not going to re-litigate, but I know that a lot of people, well, I will say it, but I know that a lot of people or some people are peeved with Mike because he's working audio. I wouldn't do it myself, but it hasn't affected my love and friendship for Mike. And
Yeah. I call him the Don, the Godfather, Pasiello.
yeah,
He I think there's a lot of us that wouldn't be where we're at without Mike. If you look back in his history over the last
yeah.
40, probably even longer, I mean, he's been there since the beginning. And I'm actually, I'm sure people have their reasons, but I'm actually disappointed at how people treated him when he made
Well,
the decisions that he had to make. Yeah,
that's what I felt. The people that should like I don't I said I wouldn't really litigate. I don't um I don't agree with his choices to go and work there. But there's, two things which I've said before, I'll say again. He's doing it with a pure heart. He
yeah,
thinks he can make a difference. And also he needed a fucking job. And because he's an older guy and he's got he got family and he needed healthcare. you know, whatever company, yeah, I mean, it's obvious that Audio Eye are a bunch of assholes, but see, I can
Yeah,
say,
they, they've, on that part, they've done some horrible things to the community as well. They've been
yeah,
hurtful. They've
yeah,
done some things.
exactly.
But when you look at Mike's history, he has always stepped into areas
Yeah,
and, technologies that were, very antagonistic, if you will, towards accessibility
exactly. Yeah,
and has opened things up. So for me, aside from the day-to-day logistics of he needs a job and he needs health insurance or whatever it may be, for
yeah,
whatever reason, I'm not going to get in anyone's pocket. That's their decision. But it did not surprise me that he joined an organization like Audio Eye to try to make that better because I think. Unfortunately, it feels like because of the marketing, like those of us that are doing it from the other angle,
yeah,
people are getting beat up by overlays, right? Like overlays are out there, and I think it's because people sometimes companies that try to. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to provide different angles of perspectives. But I
yeah, yeah,
think companies that use overlays, they maybe genuinely want to be accessible. They don't know how. And then on the other side, you have a very slick marketing guy come in and say, "Hey, we'll take care of all of it for you." And they're like, "Okay, cool. Didn't know
yeah,
it was so easy." And then you get stuck using an overlay. So I think he's doing great work at audio. I've seen some of the differences in their marketing and some of the tools. It's
yeah.
still,
So have
he still
I.
has a long way to go, but it would not be where it's at. Again, it would not be where it's at without Mike. And I think he's
Yeah,
trying to change that from where he can. And if there's anyone that's going to do it, it's going to be Mike.
exactly. I mean, one of the things I always appreciate about Mike is that he he sort of looked at people and said that person, is has potential, and he would support them, but he wouldn't tell us what to do. He never told me what to do, and he just sort of he thought about he saw the potential, and he said, "Here, here's your support." And
Yep.
you could always, go and talk to him about whatever, but he
Yeah.
wouldn't he wouldn't like he didn't micromanage. And that's the thing that one of the things I've been managing. Well, I used to manage at TPG, and I could never say I'm being a micromanager, but I'm managing now. Like one of the people I manage is Patrick, who's virtually unmanageable, but not really. But I always talk about I have a homeopathic sort of management style. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
um,
Yeah, there will be no Mike Paciello slander on my timelines for sure. So,
excellent, excellent. Yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, I'm getting him. He's coming to talk. Did I mention that? But anyway, he's a future guest, and he I'll get the opportunity to speak to him for himself about what's happening at Audio Eye. I mean,
yeah.
the only thing I regret is that my other another good friend, which is Adrian Rosselli, he was screwed over by Audio Eye.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's caused. I d- I don't think that it's caused a friction between Mike and Adrian. It's just that Adrian cannot talk to him publicly because of what's happened with the litigation in the past. I mean,
Yeah.
just messy
I
American lawyering. So
It really
anyway,
is, and I can't speak to that. I'm sure both of them could speak to it more, but yeah, no, I mean, when you come for one of us, you come for all of us. So it was definitely
yeah.
not cool what they did to Adrian, and yeah, no Adrian slander on my timeline either, and unless it's
Oh
from
no.
you, Steve, because
Well,
I know you got a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. Well, yes, I love Adrian. Uh, you see, he's like a child that only a mother could love, and so in that sense, Adrian's a mother. But anyway,
That's the
so we've
nicest
got
thing I've heard you say about him, Steve.
I yeah, I mean like one of the things that I I like a lot of people, but then I also respect people's technical and what they do. And it's like with you, I like you, but also I respect because you know your stuff. And most of the people
Thank you.
that I'm talking about here know their stuff. If you know your stuff and you share your knowledge, It's great. Um, so there's Glenn Sims, and do you know who that person is behind?
That is a really bad picture.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I work with him, and uh, I also manage him. And
Is that
that's
Lloydie?
also a really bad picture because his stomach's sticking out, but he's actually lost a lot of weight since then. So
This
he's
is Lloydie, right?
yes, this is
Yeah,
see,
Lloydie. Yeah,
you knew
yeah,
it. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't mean to call
Sure you
out
did.
that bit.
Sure
No,
you
it's
did.
just that it was like I needed a picture to stick there, and I had Glenda, and there was Lloydie just behind. As I said, like uh, like Lloydie, again, he's a
Yeah.
person that knows his stuff, and he shares a lot of good tools. One of the yeah, so I won't talk about that because he hasn't released it yet, but. Yeah, so Lloydie, and if you need accessory tools, the free accessory, bookmarks and things, Lloydie's the person to go to, accessorytools.com, I believe.
Yeah, he
Um,
drops them like weekly. The guy is just pumping them out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's a cool guy. I met him at CSUN a couple years ago, and he gave me a sticker. It was Jay-Z. I got a million problems,
oh
but the
yes.
overlays in one or something like that. And
Yeah.
I passed them around at Atlassian, and everybody loved them. So there's a lot of laptops at Atlassian that has those
Oh
stickers.
cool.
So
He'll
thanks,
he'll be
thanks,
glad to
Ian.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lloydie is good value, always has been. And as I said, that
Lloydie.
I won't further promote that photo because it's not the most flattering photo. It's just that he happened to yeah be there. So that's the new style Rogues Gallery. I think it's eight is or eight ten is better than having. One of the other reasons I did it less people was because uh, people were going, oh, who was that? They couldn't see because the photos were so
Mm,
small. So
so small. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, all right. Let me just stop that sharing and get back to just you and I. Ooh, sorry, I'm just enjoying. No, there we go. Um, ooh.
Congrats on the fireside chat while you're doing all that. It's been great to watch, and
Well,
you're like the Johnny Carson of accessibility. Love to see
I
it.
I it was something I just wanted to do a few, but it's just that I'm really enjoying talking to people and whoever like I've always had a good relationship with you, but some other people it's not that I dislike. Well, I do, I just well I talked about this with Mike Smith last, and Mike's a really good friend that I've known for many years, um, but he. But what I found is like I was harboring sort of dislikes of people, just because of the nature of the interaction that we have with especially web standards is argumentative or combative.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice just to be able to it's like people like Bruce who I've known for years. I
Mm.
Bruce Lawson that is
Yep.
known for years. Yeah. That it's nice to be able to sit down. It's the same with Carl Groves. It's nice to just chat because sort of like when I'm interacting with people over whatever the social media is, I sometimes get a bit tetchy.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah,
Carl's another one. No Carl slander on my timelines either. He's been a great guy. I've learned a lot from him. Accessibility sometimes it seems to bring out the worst in people, and people may say things, and I wish, it's such a small knit community. I wish we didn't hold each other to such high standards with what comes out of our mouth. Understanding that sometimes we can say things that actually have impact, right? We could hurt people if we're doing
yeah,
the wrong things or if we're spreading the wrong things. And I'll raise my hand first, say I've done that a few times. But if we judge people only by what they say in a small moment of time, there's a limit though. There's certain things that absolutely should not be said.
Well,
But
some
I think for the most part, we're kind of an angry bunch for understandable reasons, but we got to keep the anger at the right, focused on the right things.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that I was a lot more fiery when I was younger, or well, I still wasn't young really, but when I was in my 40s and that my earlier days of being involved in web standards, I was well, I don't know if I was more passionate. I was
Mm,
passionate and I'm still passionate, but at the same time, I've just let things slide. It's just I'm not it. I don't think it's worth getting wound up about certain things that I used to get wound up about because it
yeah.
doesn't do me or anybody else any good.
Yeah, there's the thing about accessibility, I think, is that we shout as loud as we can and we invite as many people as we can. So that means there's always new people joining the fight.
Yeah,
And this is not something you learn overnight. You know, it takes a long time to, it's stuff that you have to learn. It's people you need to talk to, it's people you need to work with. And so it's very easy for someone who's brand new to be super excited and say something probably that was wrong.
yeah.
Like I know people get really mad when they say like, for example, the alt tag. People get really mad like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
it's
I
like,
mean,
okay,
that's a
maybe,
minor, like I don't mind
yeah,
that. I mean, I'll do pick those sort of things up. But it's when you get people that come into the room, the virtual room that we interact in, and I think they know everything. That's
yeah,
really fucking annoying.
yeah,
Because people like you yourself and I have been doing this for years and years. I still, I still don't know. I don't claim to know everything. It's like, the concept of an expert. I don't want to be called an expert because I don't feel as if I'm an expert. I know some things about stuff, and I do know people who are experts. So, people like James Craig and a guy
yeah,
called
right,
Rich Swertberger, who I
right,
used to,
right,
and Yanina, well, I can't remember. So I can see it's gone again, but Yanina's someone who's through the W3C, who's been involved for many a year. Um, but I see other expertise in others, but I don't want to claim or think that I have the level of expertise where I can tell, I can put other people down because of it.
yeah.
So
I
it's
mean, how could you be an expert in a field? First of all, it's based on the human experience, which is changing constantly all day, every day. Then you have the technology, browsers are changing, operating
yeah.
systems are changing. So much is changing and in flux every day that you can't. I mean, if you're an expert, you were probably an expert 6 months ago,
Yeah,
if you wanted to call
exactly.
yourself that.
Yeah,
So,
there's always something new. That's part of the allure, I think, is there's
right.
it's just a constant, you're constantly learning, constantly picking new things up. And also, as far as, when people talk about accessibility, they talk about the whole gamut. There's no way that I have any expertise. I do have expertise in say, particular aspects of the way the accessibility tree is implemented in browsers. But beyond that, like, there's quite often, people will ask questions about, say, about audio description. I did. I know about it, but I
Yeah.
would never, sort of think, oh, I would say go to the people, usually, people like Mel, is it Mel Evans?
Oh,
So
Meryl. Yes. Meryl
Merrill,
Evans.
that's
Yep.
right, yeah. People who actually live it because they're deaf or whatever.
Right.
Sorry, not audio description. Well, Leone's good for audio description. See, that's what I mean. But things
Yeah.
like captioning and stuff like that. There's people who actually um, have to use this stuff and also have expertise in it.
Yeah. That
Never
was
want to.
that was one thing that I absolutely loved about my time at Twitter. that
Oh,
team,
that's right. You were
what,
working yeah. What happened
yeah,
there? And it
fuck
was,
Elon. That's what happened.
yeah.
But
But
had a
how long were
great
you
team.
working there for?
Well, it was 2.5 years before he killed everything. Um,
Oh, that was a
had a great
reasonable time.
Yeah, had a great team. Everyone had lived experience with disabilities, and the it was funny that I'll tell you why I'm telling you this, but it was funny because I had a blind engineer and I had a deaf engineer, and I would sit and watch them argue. One said they didn't care about alt text, and the other one said they didn't care about captions, and they in jest, it's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, the one thing that I learned from my deaf engineer is that a lot of what we know about captions, a lot of the published documentation comes from TV media and movies,
Yep.
and does not necessarily apply to digital media.
Yeah.
So learned a lot from him. Tim, he's at Apple now. He probably one of the best engineers. A great guy. Loved working with him.
Tim,
Yeah.
what's his second name?
Oh, Kettering.
Kettering. I don't know him.
Yeah,
I do know one guy that used to work. Is it Chris Haywood?
Oh, that's Andrew. Andrew Hayward. Yeah,
Andrew
he was on the
Haywood.
team as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I see I see him on LinkedIn or whatever. Um, but yeah, so it was unfortunate because you were making a lot of good progress and headway and now it's just turned into a dumpster fire again. So
Yeah, we had a
in
we had a great roadmap. Everybody on the team was just really passionate about it. And Twitter was a great company at the time. Just we didn't have to fight or sell anyone on like why to be accessible. It was just a great, culture. It was more
yeah,
about, well, for one, some of the things that, a lot of software that's coming out these days is really pushing the boundaries of what the browser can do or is meant to do.
yeah,
And HTML and ARIA has not been well at keeping up with these. So there's a trying to prioritize just time and budgets and those kinds of things were really what we were at. But we had a really great roadmap for improving text alternatives on the platform. So the stuff that we did for alt text. I you know I like to say that we taught the world how to alt text. And what I mean by that is some of the features, especially the alt badge that you see on
yep,
images, wasn't a new idea, but we just had the scale to be able to push that out in front of people. Seeing that being adopted by Slack afterwards and by WordPress afterwards was probably some of the things. And that work was so important. We went from 0.006% of images on the platform having alt text to 0.1%. So it was a huge
which
increase, but still
yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
It was
still
still nothing. It was really sad, but we did great work. We taught a lot of people what alt text was, and that was again the whole team, the designers, the visual designers, the content designers, some of the best people I worked with. The engineers were great. Yeah, it was a great time. I still shed a tear every once in a while thinking about that team.
no, I can understand. Um, the old badge thing that uh Blue Sky has it as well, and so does Mastodon.
Yeah,
Does does LinkedIn? I don't think it does. I
I
can't
don't
remember.
think so. No,
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
and we still had a lot of work to do with that one too. That
yeah,
was that
but
was just our first version.
yeah, but you start, you made some headway, which
Yeah,
is which is important. Uh, I won't touch on the subject of AI. Uh,
we
I'm
can talk about it if you want. That's fine.
well, I won't now because we've gone for an hour and a quarter, and I told my
Oh,
wife
that went
that
by fast.
yeah, I know it just seems
Yeah.
to like yeah. Um, I my dinner is almost ready, so
Oh, yeah. Don't want to get in the way of that.
no, no.
Yeah.
Have you had breakfast yet?
I had an early breakfast. Yeah, I wake up at 4:30 to work out because I have the
Wow.
time now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what can I'm going to leave it there, Gerard, because I can't say anything. I woke up at 4:30 to go back to sleep. Um,
Yeah.
Thank you, Gerard. It's been wonderful catching up with you, and we probably could talk for hours more. Um, but yeah, it's always fascinating to hear about other people's experience, work experience, and hopefully I will see you in Toronto in October. I
It's
think,
October, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's October, and fingers crossed that you will get a new position by then, and you'll continue to enjoy your life. And say hi to Crystal for me.
I will. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate
And
the time
remember
and just
to have a look
thank you.
at HTMLZ, see what you want.
Yeah. Piggy
Yeah.
Trump for everyone else. Yeah, sweet. Thank you,
Hey,
Steve. Appreciate it.
thanks, Gerard. And yeah, I'll send you the recording once it's done. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Look after
All right. Take
somebody.
care.
Bye.
Thank you.